Behind you! Now half of you are looking at me like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? The other half actually turned around. First, to those who turned around, gotcha. Also, of those of you who turned around, some of you were probably faster than others. There are millions of people all over the world who play video games. Whether you were young or old, chances are you've played or at least seen a video game in your life. Many people have negative perception of video games, but I believe everyone should play video games. To understand why, we're going to look at how video games can potentially improve your hand-eye coordination, how video games can sharpen your reflexes, and how you could even learn some things from them. To begin, let's look at how video games can improve your hand-eye coordination. If you have ever played a video game, you know that it's very important to memorize the controls of the game. Otherwise, you'd be staring at the controller and not the screen. If you can trust your hands to do the work and your eyes can focus on what's going on in the game. My mom still comes into my room and thinks it's crazy that I can have my controller under a blanket or behind my head and still play. It's evident that high-intensity games like Call of Duty or Rainbow Six Siege or even Halo, sorry, it's a little busted up, or even Fortnite require good hand-eye coordination. An article from Tech Times talked about an experiment conducted by the University of Toronto, where they wanted to understand if chronic video game playing had an effect on sensory motor control, which is the coordinated function of vision and hand movement. Sensory motor skills include tasks like riding a bike or typing, which rely on using what you see with your eyes and coordinating your muscles so that you operate accordingly. To conduct their experiment, they took 36 people, half of which played video games on a regular basis and half of which who didn't. They had both groups play a game that had them click on a square that moved around the screen randomly. At first, there wasn't much of a difference. But as time went on, those who played video games became much better at the test than those who didn't play video games regularly. Another article from How Stuff Works talked of another study from 2014 that showed adolescents who played more video games had greater density in some parts of the brain and more brain cell connections. One of those parts was the left frontal eye fields, which helps us process stimuli and includes hand-eye coordination skills. The thicker brain areas do imply that video games can improve cognition and hand-eye coordination. Now, let's look at how video games can sharpen your reflexes. There are many types of games that can help improve reflex timing. Some such games are the Telltale series games, such as The Walking Dead or Batman, which include you having to participate in QuickTime events, which require you to make a decision in a limited amount of time. Many racing games also require you to be able to make split-second decisions. I think anyone who has ever played Fortnite can tell you that the moment you get shot, the first thing you do is whip around and build a wall. An article from Futurity.org discussed a study done by the University of Rochester on cognitive reaction time. The researchers took dozens of 18 to 25-year-olds and split them into two groups. One played 50 hours of Call of Duty, and the other group played 50 hours of The Sims. The two groups were then asked to make quick decisions in several tasks designed by the researchers. In the tasks, the participants had to look at a screen, analyze what was going on, and answer a simple question about the action in as little time as possible. In order to make sure their effect wasn't limited to just visual perception, the participants were also asked to complete a task that was purely auditory. The action game players were up to 25% faster at coming to a conclusion and answered just as many questions correctly as their strategy game playing peers. Another article about a study done by the Central Washington University had 87 participants ranging from 18 to 40. They wanted to test the difference in types of reaction time to a visual oddball stimulus between gamers and non-gamers. What is a visual oddball stimulus? Basically, they'd place someone at a computer screen with a mouse, the screen would change colors or an object would appear on the screen, and the moment the change took place, the person would need to click down on the mouse. The study was measuring the reaction time between the object appearing and the screen and the click of the mouse. The study's results had significant data to show that the reaction time of gamers had a quicker reaction time than the non-gamers. But there is an issue with this study. There is no evidence showing the reaction time of clicking a mouse transcends into everyday life. Would a gamer be able to react to a shoe getting thrown at them? It's not very clear. I won't throw the shoe at you. Finally, Let's explore how video games can increase your knowledge. One of the biggest, most well known, historically based game franchises are the Assassin's Creed games. There you go. Each one takes place in a real historical place and includes real historical events and people. Now, events have been altered to make for a more fun play experience, but there is a lot to learn from them. In fact, I have a friend who, whilst we were learning about the Greek Empire in school, played through the Assassin's Creed Odyssey game, which takes place during the Greek Empire. And it actually helped him get one of the best scores out of the class on the test. The trick with the games like these, though, is knowing where the true events lie and where the game story kind of intertwines. There are also games that require you use your knowledge you already have, such as Trivia Crack or Word Cookies, and even websites like SomeDog or Duolingo, which are intended solely for learning. An article from HeyYouVideoGame.com talks about Yale researchers who performed a study with 583 second graders, where they had the students play a brain training game called Activate. The results found that those students who played for 20 minutes 3 times a week over the course of 4 months excelled in reading and math tests compared to those students who didn't play the video game. In addition, many gamers love video games due to the elements of progression, accomplishment, and success. People aren't opposed to learning, but it's easier when you feel like you're progressing and succeeding. To conclude, everyone should play video games. To prove this, we looked at how video games can improve hand-eye coordination, how video games can sharpen your reflexes, and how video games can expand your knowledge. When you play a video game, the most important thing to keep in mind is to have fun. There are people whose careers stem purely from video games, whether you play or design them. And even doctors and surgeons actually have training games that they use before surgeries to help them know what they need to do. Don't judge games purely on what people say about them. Try one for yourself. Enjoy the feeling of being all-powerful or the world's best racer, or even the universe's greatest star pilot. Just enjoy the moments you have with games because you never know when you'll have to stop playing. I think that it's every gamer's biggest fear when you have to put the controller down for the last time and say goodbye to all the great times you've had.